Hello and welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. My name is Don Pelto and thank you all for watching today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this podcast or wherever you're watching it on YouTube. Today we're going to be chatting with Brad Neuhaus. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So
Good.
we met recently at one of the AAPPM conferences in Lagomar, and I thought that you had a really cool idea and I wanted to kind of explore it and brainstorm and kind of see how it's transitioned. But everyone's kind of thinking, what the heck's he going to talk about? We're going to talk about boxes for your orthotics. Okay, so we're going to talk about Orthotic Box. That's the name of your company. Tell me a little bit about how in the world did a guy like think about making boxes for orthotics? So tell me a little bit about it, Brad.
Yeah, so my father is actually a podiatrist as well. He's in Nashville, Tennessee, Dr. Neuhaus. And I'm fluent in Mandarin Chinese. And so I've been doing some manufacturing stuff in China already. And he's a super entrepreneur, loves to start new things, try new ideas. And one day he just said he was giving out orthotics in a plastic baggie, these custom orthotics that his patients were paying $400, $500 for. And he was like, why am I giving this in a plastic bag when they're paying this much for something that should bring value to them? And so he kind of just came back home and he told me, he was like, hey, like, I got a new idea for you. Like, I want a box to give my custom orthotics in, like something with my practice name on it that will build some value in these orthotics. And so when the customers leave, he was like, I was thinking about it. It's one of those things like, how many Apple phone boxes do I have at home? He's like, a nice box, I just don't throw away. And so if I could give my patient something that they don't want to throw away, they're going to remember who I am. They're going to remember where they got their orthotics from. They might take out their old ones, throw it in the box, throw it in their closet. When it's time for a new one or when their foot hurts, they're going to go, who is my foot doctor? Oh, I have that box. And so then they'll go get it, remember who their foot doctor was, and come back and see you again. So it was honestly his idea. He told me about it. I went and found some factories that did packaging, manufacturing. And we started our first order we did probably 2.5 years ago now. And it was just him and then two of his other buddies that had practices. One's in Colorado and the other was in Washington. And I did about 2,000 boxes for all of them. And they loved it. I mean, the style of the box at that time was more like an Apple box, exactly like an Apple box with like foam inserts. And since then, we've kind of redesigned, and I think we're on our third design. But so far, doctors have loved this design, and yeah, now we're here 2 years later making orthotic boxes for. We have probably 15, 20 doctors that we're doing them for right now. So
That's awesome, Brad. And I like the idea because me too. I have like tons of iPhone and iPad boxes at home, and it's one of those things. It's the experience of opening it up and you think it's quality. You know, it's quality stuff.
Yep, exactly.
So tell me. So I'm just curious, and I think people on this podcast are. How much of a pain in the butt is it to make something in China? Like, is it bureaucratic? Are you worried about someone stealing your idea? How do you find vendors? How do you validate quality of products? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been to China a few times. I mean, it's not hard, but it's not easy. It's one of those things, once you get into the system and figure out the system, it's pretty simple. So the factories that I all work with in China all are very big factories that have professional companies that do quality checking on them all the time. And they manufacture a lot of things for a lot of different companies. Going back to what you said, are you scared someone's going to knock off your product? There's a lot of companies that I work with or like factories that I work with that do manufacturing for bigger brand name companies that will also manufacture like a lot of extra of their product without their label on it. And then they'll go private label it for other companies. So there definitely is a lot of that happens in China. It's almost impossible to protect what you're building there. I mean, I've had people come to me say, hey, I want something made like this, whether it's a jacket or socks or a hat, or I mean, even as big as medical exam chairs. You can send it over to China, they'll reconstruct it exactly the same way. Like, doesn't matter if it's copyrighted in the US or whatever, they'll
They'll like
just get
hack
it
it
knocked
out.
off.
They'll destroy it and rebuild it and learn how to make it.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So Because yeah, we
That's
had an
awesome.
exam chair that a doctor wanted made, like a certain one that he had already, and they were like, "Oh, just send us that one, and we'll deconstruct it, and then build build new ones exactly the same way." So it's pretty wild how they do it, but they've mastered it. They can build anything you want, however you want it. And yeah, that is the issue. Is it's pretty hard to protect your stuff over there because they don't care who it's coming from, where it's from. If they're gonna get paid for it, they're gonna do it.
That's awesome, Brad. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, and there was this book I read recently called Giftology. I'm a big reader of books. So
Mhm.
this giftology book, he talks about basically giving gifts to patients, or that's how I kind of intertwined it. And his whole idea premise is like 5% of the value of the client. So I was just kind of thinking out loud. Look, so I charge $550 for an orthotic. And so if you take like 10%, would be like 50. And then 5, like it's a really like almost like 1% of the value is your box, right? Or 2%, right?
Yeah, our boxes are cheap. So there's two different versions. There's a fully customized one where you can customize the wording on the inside and the outside. They start, our minimum order is 100 boxes. They start at 10.99 per box. That's with the fully custom with free shipping. Then after that, it goes down like about $1 every 100 more that you order.
Yeah.
And then the basic box is where you can just customize the outside of the box. And I can show you what they look like actually.
Yeah.
So here's one. That's the outside. It's just a little slide box, and the orthotic goes inside. So this is
That's
the
cool.
basic model. So there's no wording inside, just outside, but you can put whatever you want outside. And those are $8 for 100. Then this is the fully custom one that's 10.99. They have their
Oh,
break-in
cool.
instructions inside. So he wanted some instructions on how to break in his orthotic.
Love it. Love it.
So yeah, and these also you can change the inside color on the fully custom ones. So if you don't want just white, his practice logo is blue and white. So he did an inside blue box, outside white. We can do other colors for you as well.
That's a cool idea. I always find I tend to be I think I call it I'm a complicator and not a simplifier. What I like is I was thinking like you have to do this QR code with this extensive video, and all he did was write what you have to do to break in the orthotics. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that makes like so much easier than I'm trying to complicate things of.
Yeah. Well, no,
uh,
I've had some doctors actually that want like a video of them explaining it. So they actually have, I mean, I have one guy that does it. He has his own like print machine that he prints his QR codes on it. I mean, I could do it for him in China, but he prefers to do it himself. But yeah, I do have doctors that put QR codes on with instructions or just like a
yeah.
little bit about their practice or something like that. But yeah.
I'm gonna send you afterwards, and I'm gonna put a link here for those that are listening. There was a video I got from my friend Larry, and he's got a how to like break in orthotics is his how to break it in.
Mhm.
And if your dad has any like how to break in orthotics, I'll put it underneath this episode too.
Cool.
But I think it's good to see how people do things, because once again, we're talking about and I know it sounds funny talking about it. We're talking about an experience. Okay.
Yeah.
I know, oh, it's just an orthotic. No, it really is an experience. Like they're paying 550, like that's a significant amount of money. And they should have an experience. So like I keep thinking of like Apple, like when you learn about the new Apple Watch, they're showing like how it's made, all this chiseling and all this other stuff. It's like an experience. And
Yep.
so patients, a lot of times they like to see like how the orthotic is made, where it's made at, what orthotic company you use, why you use it, everything around it, so it can make it more, it increases the value of it. Don't you think, Brad?
100%. Yeah. That was one of the main reasons the doctors that are using it is just because they feel like it makes their patient feel like, oh, they just paid $550. They got a quality product from a doctor that cares about his practice, wants to promote his practice. A lot of doctors have kind of told me they're like, oh yeah, we just kind of put this in as like a marketing expense because
Okay.
we're putting
Yep.
our company out there with our website and we're giving them a box that we hope they keep. And so that next time they want to come, they can go back to their closet and remember, oh, that was my doctor. So
Yeah. That's cool. What other, I know if you're an entrepreneur, you're like thinking about either how to improve the box for the future or how to do other kind of side hustles or side gigs related to other things you could box up for patients. What are, like when you're brainstorming and thinking, what other ideas do you have, Brad?
as far as orthotic boxes go,
Yeah, or anything. And we're talking marketing, sales, things like that. Anything that you have that you're
Yeah,
interested
I
in.
mean, so the box, like I said, originally we started with a much bigger, bulkier box that looked like an Apple box. And then inside, we put these custom foam inserts so that like it would sit inside of it. But I mean, the problem we ran into with those was storage, doctors having to
If you're
store
doing like
things.
30, 40 pairs a month, it's like that's a lot of space.
Yeah. And so storage, and then they would kind of vacuum seal shut. And so then we went to a little flip box that like flipped open. Um, but that they just didn't feel like was as nice, like it didn't look as good. Um, and so then we ended up with this slide box, which we've been doing for about a
I like the
year,
slide. I like the
which
slide.
everyone likes because yeah, it just slides in and out. And then it's a lot smaller. It's pretty thin, so it's easy for the doctors to store. They don't have to worry about having these big bulky boxes because the boxes before they were probably as big as two stacked together and then
Oh,
two
wow.
wide. So yeah, they started out really big. So we've kind of gone through the process in the last 2 years of figuring out what's easiest for the doctors to store, what looks good, what's easy for the patient to open and close, and just get the orthotics out, but still high quality enough that they're gonna want to save it. So
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to give you value here now, Brad, because a lot of times when you're meeting with customers, right, they'll have certain objections or questions or concerns or things like that. So let's go over some of the main concerns that they have and kind of what are your answers to some of those main concerns? Like what are the main questions or I guess objections or whatever that they come up with? Okay, you want to sell them to me. What do most people say?
so I'd say the first one is storage. Where am I gonna put them? Because the minimum order is 100. But I mean, at the end of the day, 100 of these boxes is gonna take up like it's probably as big as 10 shoe boxes.
Okay.
So you don't need a ton of space. And that's been probably one of my biggest things is people are like, oh, well, where am I going to put them? But then I've had people that are like, oh, that I could put, they like look at the boxes and they're like, oh, 100 of these. Okay, I could put these under my desk. I have one
Mhm.
doctor that's just like, oh, I'll just store them under my desk because
Well,
I'm not.
that's a good question. So when the orthotics come in, do you put them all in the box? Like, how do you find the orthotic, or do you do it just as you're dispensing it from the when the patient comes in? How
just
do they?
just as you're dispensing it is what most of the doctors do.
Okay,
Just
because
because all the boxes
that
are
would
the same
suck. You couldn't
size.
find them because they're all like people's names, so there's no names written on them, so you couldn't find them.
Yeah. So as far as the boxes go, I mean, they're just one standard size. You can fit up to like a size 15 orthotic in it.
Okay,
So anything, it works for all patients pretty much. Um, but yeah, so I'd say first one would just be the storage. Second, um, I'd say shipping. So I do it all over in China.
yeah. So how long does it take? Let's say I order it today. How long does it come
Yeah,
in?
so if you order it today, it'll be about 4 to 6 weeks before you receive it. So it is a little bit of a wait time, something that we're trying to figure out. I mean, right now what we do is I just have paid for a ton of boxes to be made over in China that are blank,
Hmm.
um,
So
in
they
different
just
colors
print
and
them.
stuff.
They print them
Yeah,
when you
so then they
order.
just print them, which has saved us a lot of time because when we first started doing it for doctors, that was our issue was we didn't have a ton already made. And so the process of making the box to printing to shipping, all of that took about 2.5, 3 months for the first doctors that ordered. So it's kind of a process. But now that we've been doing it, we've simplified it and it's down to about 4 to 6 weeks. But also it is a fully customized product. So typically that's going to take a little bit longer. So
Now,
yeah, that's the other issue that we've run
okay.
into. Um, but I mean, once we get a little bit bigger, we'll probably have all of our boxes here in the States on hand and just be printing them here. We're just not to that level yet, but hopefully we get there here pretty soon.
So well, if you print them there, pre-make them, does the facility, do they just store stuff for you? They do
Yeah.
that as well? Oh,
Yep.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really nice actually. That's the thing is working with factories in China, they're very loyal people and they'll do anything to help you out. So when I ask them for favors, they're always very willing to help. So that's nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I'm trying to think of what other objections or questions people would have with the.
Those are honestly the two main ones. I mean, other than that, it's pretty simple. I mean, you just get on our website and click on which box you want, the fully custom or just the standard custom.
Upload your JPEG or something like
Yeah,
that.
upload your logo onto it. You can position it however you want. put your wording on it. You can add a little text box, put wording where you want, what you want it to say, save it, hit the order, and then it just sends it to us, and then I send it directly to my factory, and they'll give us, well, you'll have the mock-up. It'll save the mock-up and send you an email of what it looks like. And then once you like it, we'll go ahead and print it and send it over to you.
And then to reorder, they just send you an email, or is it like a
Yeah,
portal
so
type of thing?
it's saved, so they can just send us an email and we can go back through and place the same order again. So
That's kind of cool.
yeah.
That's pretty neat. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, like another thing that I don't know if they're going to do this in the future, but I think I think the future is going to be printing, right? 3D printing of our own
Mhm.
orthotics, right? It's just
Well, the
the finishing.
orthotics my dad uses is the Go 4D orthotics. I don't know if you've heard of them. But Go 4D does 3D printing for their orthotics. So yeah, all their orthotics are 3D printed.
They
I
print
think,
them right in the office.
yeah. I don't know if they print them in the office, but like he puts that on his box
Yeah, I
actually,
see that. That's cool.
just because customers are like, oh, that's
They
kind of
like
cool.
laser, they like 3D printed, they like,
Yeah,
they like
the
all
cool
the
things that catch their attention. They're like, oh,
these
this must be nice.
buzzwords.
It's 3D printed. Like it's still one of those things that's cool to think about, you know?
Yeah.
So
And then as we kind of finish up here, Brad, let's just talk in general. I know you recommended this book because I always ask people what they're reading because I like to read 10X by Grant Cardone. So kind of tell me, some people, if they haven't heard of Grant Cardone, kind of who he is, what are some of the best topics within this book and how it's affected you?
yeah, so Grant Cardone, he's actually, I mean, his main thing is really like real estate. He's huge into real estate. But also he's just a guy that kind of teaches you how to do sales, and kind of one of those life motivator guys that has a really cool story. I mean, when he was 25, he was a drug addict and was kind of going nowhere in life, and then decided it was time to turn around. And now he's probably close to 60 now, but he's a billionaire, if not a billionaire, really close. And just his book 10X is about 10Xing your life, like doing 10 times more that you think you're able to do. And that was kind of like last year, my goal in life was to like 10X like my business revenue, 10X like some other things. I mean, I was in school still, so 10Xing like my effort in school, and just 10Xing my effort in life and a bunch of different things. I mean, religion stuff, 10Xing that. And so that's the book that I read I think 3 times last year. Just because it was super good at motivating me. It like talks not just about like 10Xing your life, but also like kind of just how to do it, why it's important. And I really like how he talks about setting your goals really high, like 10Xing your life. Like, are you honestly going to be able to 10X yourself in a year? Probably not. Are you gonna be able to 10X your business revenue in a year? Probably not. But are you going to be 3 or 4 times closer than you would have been if you had just wanted to double it or just said, I'm going to try really hard? Probably. And so you get a lot closer to, or you just like go a lot further than you think you ever could by setting your goals really high. But he also helps you understand like not to get demotivated, because if you don't hit it, I mean, it's easy to get demotivated when you're not hitting your goals. You're like, oh, I'm not going to hit it. I mean, there was a lot of mine that I definitely didn't 10X, but I'm way closer or way further along the process than I would have been had I just said, oh, yeah, I'll try and increase that, or I'll try and do better at that.
Yeah, I recently read that book. It was that book, Brad, that I read. And the thing
Okay.
that struck me is that we don't realize it a lot of times takes 10X the effort,
Mhm.
10X the money, 10X the phone calls, 10 times everything. And I want to be very frank with like this Podiatry Practice Mastery, this podcast. Like he says, the biggest problem, I was listening on the way in, the biggest problem isn't overexposure, it's obscurity.
Mhm.
And he says it multiple times, like in our private practices as podiatrists, the problem isn't we're too out there. The problem is we're obscure and people don't know about us, and they go buy Dr. Scholl's over-the-counter inserts because they don't know about us.
Yep.
And like getting it out there. And he talks about 10X work. And I think the one caveat, which he doesn't talk about, maybe because he doesn't know how to do it, or that wasn't the focus of the book, is we can 10X ourselves with technology and
Mhm.
like with virtual assistants. You know what I'm saying? So like you can take one piece of content. One of my favorite apps right now is called repurpose.io, repurpose.io. And it's cool because you can make one piece of content and then it sends it all the way out, like you're viral all over the place, but you just do one piece of content and then it links to everything. And so try to getting our practice name or getting your name out there. I think this is great, trying to 10x it. But and then the other thing he talks about in the book, I don't know if he talks about it. There's a guy, he's another sales guy. He talks about the 100. What the heck's his name? It's passing by me right now. But he talks about having this 100 of people that you're trying to get in contact. Like, who are the people that could use orthotic boxes? Like, not just individual practices, but like, if you could get in front, I'm just brainstorming with you right now, getting in front of like the APMA, or getting American Podiatry, or AAPPM, or getting in front of like a pedorthist, like Hanger Labs, because they give orthotics. Now, they're not all about high level or like high class stuff, but even like a lot of chiropractors and other people that give out orthotics, like those are other people, physical therapists, they do orthotics. Like, having it kind of be that way as an idea.
For sure.
Do you have, go ahead, tell me your ideas.
Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
The other thing I was thinking about is, it's always good to get it in people's hands. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. I don't know if you have pre-made ones, you could almost send them one just to, once you talk to someone, oh, they're not maybe interested, but then send them like a shock and awe package.
Yeah.
You've heard of shock and awe? Like, you could send them one, well, you can maybe cost you $10-15, but you could get a box and you could put some goodies in there, or maybe a DVD or a CD, or just something with some testimonials of like your dad and other people putting in there, hey, this is the best thing, it helped us because of this, this is how you can use it, here's other tips. And you can send them a box with that, like as a shock and awe when you're meeting people at the conferences. Instead of just, I'll follow up with you, you send them that, and then it'll give them some benefit before they even decide. So just some ideas.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a great idea, actually.
So anything else you want to add, Brad, as you're finishing up here?
Just go check out our website, orthoticbox.com, and it's super easy to customize them and place an order. So
great. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for your time.
yeah, I appreciate it.